somebody mentioned that. That's pretty rough. And it was pointed out that that's a road where a lot of people, it's their first impression of the city. They fly into Manchester and they drive down Perimeter Road. So that I definitely brought up, and they had already acknowledged that. So again, I don't want to promise anybody, because things can change depending on what the final judgment is on the conditions of the road after the season. But the good news is that we're on the right track. They've changed the way that they're allocating funds from the way it used to be. It used to be the alderman would drive around with Public Works and point out the roads they wanted paved because those were the people who voted for them. But they've since changed that. It's become much less subjective, much more objective, which is I think great in the long run for the whole city. They've gone through and graded every street in the entire city, and they now are putting aside. It was $5 million, I believe. It's a little less in the recent budgets. It's been about $3 million a year, but they're putting aside a few $1 million every year rather than doing big lump sums, big capital projects all at once. And so this way, they're going to hopefully catch up and be able to do better maintaining of the roads. You may see roads getting paved, and you're saying, why is that being paved? That road is great. It doesn't need to be paved. Well, it may look like it's getting paved, but it could just be getting a certain treatment that's not quite as expensive as a complete repaving or reconstruction of the road in order to keep that road for another 7 or 8 years. So it was a great experience and meeting. I learned a lot, and I think it would be valuable possibly if people would be interested to have them come, and maybe Kevin Shepard as well, and just talk about public works in the city outside of just roads. So I know roads were on the mind of a lot of people. Obviously, we're into the budget season, but you had a question.
I do. So it's about the roads. There's a couple questions. When we do our car registration, there's a fee that's supposed to be dedicated to a fund. I don't know if you've been able to look into that to see what that fund balance is. Number two, like on South Taylor Street, that's been like that for years. They patch it up after every storm. But clearly, with trucks and cars and everything. My question is, if private utilities come in and dig up the road, does the city repave, or is the utility responsible? And are they using the same grade paving? Because there seems to be kind of a mismatch there, so I don't know if those are...
Sure. So the utilities are responsible for what's called a degradation fee, and they'll either... it'll either be contracted out to like Continental, or the city will actually do it. They just pay it. And that's also part of the strategy recently is that the city has been trying much more to coordinate with the utilities. So if the city says, hey, we want to pave this street, they're doing a much better job of reaching out to each of the utility companies, gas, water, and saying, do you have work that needs to be done under the road in the coming years? And if they say yes, they might actually push that road off another year so that it gets done all at once, and they're not doing this patching where they're cutting out 75% of the street and leave it, you know what I mean, and just patching it. So it's all part of a degradation fee that the utility companies pay when they do work. And so they're like I said, they're trying to do better coordination with them on that. But I will look into the part of the car registration.
It used to go into a dedicated fund, but then it seemed to have been raided, not this year, but past couple budget cycles. And so I'm just kind of curious to know if it's a dedicated fund, where that money is.
Yeah. Okay.
Because that's a lot of money on car registrations, $5 a car. That's a lot of money.
Yeah.
Just be curious to know where that money is.
I'll look that up. So, like I said, we're now getting into budget season. The mayor just gave her budget address last week. There's a public hearing next week on the 10th. I encourage anybody to go and everyone to go. I'm still trying to familiarize myself with it, so I don't know that I'd be able to answer many questions tonight on it. It was by charter a budget at or under the tax cap, and rest assured, I'm sure that there will be other budgets coming in from other aldermen. I'm not working on one, but I think that there are other more veteran aldermen who are working on alternative budgets. The firefighters, that's going on right now. I am one of the 6 aldermen that are participating in the mediation process with the firefighters. We met a couple weeks ago, and we were at it for about 5 hours. It was a very positive and productive mediation. That's unfortunately at the extent of it that I can say, because it's all confidential, non-public at the moment. But we are planning another mediation session because we didn't come to a final agreement during that session. So, but it was positive, and we're working towards an agreement that will hopefully be amicable for both sides. But as the mayor pointed out in her budget, there is no money under the tax cap for any salary increases for any union, and let alone pensions. There was also no funding of the pensions in her budget. So we're in a very difficult situation right now. It's a tough budget cycle. And besides that, I just wanted to now quickly go over to any questions anybody had, so that we could get to Dr. Vargas. Thank you for coming, who's now here. But if there's any other questions that people wanted to talk about that I might be able to answer, I'm happy to answer them right now.
Well, getting a couple of street signs put up in a neighborhood.
Yeah, come right to me.
I live in a neighborhood that's one way in, one way out. Okay, there's no posted street signs. What's the speed limit if it's not posted? 30. Is it 30 or is it 25? It's 30.
That I don't know.
Still 30 miles an hour?
We changed that back in the 60s. We had 25 miles an hour, and we brought it up to 30.
Now it's 30?
What,
Well,
what's-
I think 15 miles an hour is adequate for the neighborhood.
What's your neighborhood?
There's a lot of kids, they run around, play ball and all that. There's a lot of people that drive very fast.
Yeah. What's your neighborhood?
By Crystal Lake.
Okay, I remember your face, yeah. We met, and I think that there was a no outlet sign that should have gone up.
That's not there. There's a
not.
slow sign at the top of the hill.
Yeah,
There's no outlet, there's no dead ends, because they're all dead ends.
okay. I'll get back to Public Works, because I did ask them, I remember we had this conversation, I asked them to put up a no outlet sign at Bodwell and the entrance to West Shore Drive, right?
There should probably be some kind of speed limit also.
Yep. That I wasn't aware of, but any signage issues, come right to me, and then I'm the one who will submit it to the traffic committee for approval. So if you don't have my email, we'll get together and,
Yeah, please.
or my number, and yeah, we'll talk about the signage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Excellent.
All right, well, without further ado, I want to get it over so Jimmy and Dr. Vargas have plenty of
So
time.
I'm Jimmy Lehoux, School Board Ward 8. So I do want to say we're on Facebook Live tonight, so we may get in some questions from home, from people that are at home on the Ward 8 page. So trying technology, utilize it in our best interest. I do want to announce some special guests here. Back here we have Mrs. Milligan, south side, Mr. Cataldo, John's brother. Mr. Krantz is the principal at McLaughlin, and Miss Gillis, who I'm very proud to say the board recently selected her for the new assistant superintendent position. So that hasn't been, so that will be coming out in a formal statement, but you guys are the first to know.
Thanks.
So we're pretty excited. And we have Dr. Vargas. I asked the middle school principals to be here because if redistricting did come up, then they could discuss their schools and how that would all be implemented. And so they are available as well to ask questions in particular about their school. So this is kind of an open forum. So it could really take whatever path you want. We can discuss, MST. We could discuss the budget, the redistricting, safety. So really how the conversation will go will be determined by you guys. So feel free to raise your hand, and so I'll invite Dr. Vargas to come on up and give a little statement if you'd like. This microphone does work.
It's very short. I just want to say thank you to each one of you. Thank you, Mr. Lehoux and Mr. Cataldo, for inviting me here. And I'm here to answer any question to the best of my ability. And education normally is one of the key indicator of the well-being of a community. When you look at the state of our schools, they tell you something about a particular community. And I'm very proud to work here because you have a community here that is very, very dedicated to the well-being of our children. Beginning with our educator, I'm glad that you have, some of you know, some of the work that is taking place at Parkside, and we hope Southside and Hillside and McLaughlin. All our middle school are working very hard on our elementary and high school to make sure that we give the best experience to our kids and family. But last but not least, our educators, we should be very proud of them for many reasons. One of which is they do more with less than anyone in the state of New Hampshire. I would argue that across the country, we would be in the top. However, that is a good thing, that they work hard, that they care so much about our children. But the last thing that I want to say is if we are going to provide our families the same experiences that they would get in the neighboring district, in the surrounding districts, we're going to have to invest. And what do I mean by that? Our middle school, for example, don't have the resources that they need to respond to what families are asking us. Like, for example, if you were to go to one of the surrounding districts, they had 3 or 4 languages available to them. They will have health teaching. They will have a robust reading and math intervention so that no child move to high school without the skill set necessary to do high school work. And while our people are working hard, it's like asking someone to do a job without giving them the necessary tools to succeed. I mean, we have preschool, and for example, we serve a significant amount of students that are age 3. Most people think that we are educating students at age kindergarten, 6 years old, but that is not the case. For example, if you come to some of our schools, you will see nurses working one-on-one with particular students. And so you have a system in here that many of us, when I describe it, say to me, but that's not the system that I used to know. And for example, we are providing that kind of education to over a significant amount of students with no additional revenue. And every year we go after it and do the best we can to meet the needs of children. For example, we have programs in our system that is serving the most vulnerable, and we are very proud. And also we have high schooler and other that, for example, Central High School, I will conclude, every year for the past 4 years have got at least one student accepted into Harvard, MIT, some of the highly selected colleges and universities, and yet also community college and vocational and just the military. So you have a very dynamic system, but I'm afraid that if we don't continue to invest, given the challenge that we face, that we might not be as competitive as with the type of requests that I'm getting from families. Families are asking for our children to get the same services that they are getting in the surrounding district. It's no longer the case that if you were born in Manchester, It used to be probably 50 years ago, you most likely were going to die here. Now people are moving around and they're not necessarily moving far away from us, they're moving to the next district, and one of the reasons is they're looking for more for their children. So thank you for allowing me to make that remark, but it's sort of like I wanted to say, we are very fortunate to have such a system, but it won't continue to be as strong as it is unless we take good care of it. Like any system or any family or any organization, you constantly have to look for continuous improvement.
So does anyone have any questions or go ahead.
Dr. Vargas, at the redistricting meeting that you had at Memorial, you spoke a little bit about MST and the applicants. You had 175 applicants and the possibility of taking 90-something, and it equated to about 48% can make it in, 52 cannot. Have you come up with a plan on that?
Yeah, I think that you're going to see a recommendation for the school board, and then you go to Mr. Costado and his colleagues, in which we try to respond to that. And I'm glad that you asked that question, because we need to be more responsive to families. And what that is to me is that this is a great school, by the way. We have people from all over the country and the world have come to look at this operation. Actually, we had a delegation here from Brazil, about 25 of the highest official in Brazil looking at this possibility. The world is watching us because we no longer make things the way we used to make it, right? I mean, you'd be surprised what our children are doing here. 3D printer and the latest technology. So we have an incredible programs for those students that want that program. We have a lot of families knocking on the door of this school that they want to get in, and we are responding. On Monday we will have a response to it. It might not be the best, but it's a response. I will not promise them that it's the perfect proposal, but it is a sound one. I think that at least it's responsive to what I'm hearing and what the families are demanding.
Thank you.
Can I piggyback off that? What is your proposal? My son both of our kids are, their applications are in for MST.
Yeah.
So what is your proposal, given that we all know Memorial has a ton of room? So is that something?
That is something, in the 21st century, no organization can succeed without collaboration. And in 2013, they did a study here of this school system. This is not what I discovered. This is something that the board paid $42,000 to study the system. One of the things that they point to us was that there was poor collaboration and that we were among silos. So here you have a school that needs space, but you could basically walk, and our students do. We have over 150 students during the school day come here from Memorial. They come to our operation here. Part of the collaboration that I'm asking for is that since they have a space, why not have a group of students there? For example, the student that want to be with us, they don't care if they take physical education classes across the street, if I might say that. So it has all those elements that the needs that the school have in here. It could be satisfied by walking, just the same thing. And by the way, this thing has been here for a long time. Kids have been coming here from Memorial for a very long time. I don't like to experiment with children, and if I am, I will tell you it's innovative or something, and something that I thought through, but this is a low-hanging fruit to me. Should the board consider, and just to give you an idea, last year, over a year ago, when they were doing redistricting, the board created an objective, a goal, and that was to expand MST, which is a good idea. The sector would cost us around $8 million, and we have financial problems. why add more space when you have extra space in Memorial? So the board was very wise, and they changed that. Mr. Lehoux and his colleagues retreated from that. Then part of the goal redistricting is how do we utilize the space better? And that's part of the plan to respond to the needs that MSD has in here.
So when the next school board meeting is what, Monday?
Correct.
So if you bring your proposal and the board agrees to it, will this, because we're supposed to find out mid-April
Correct.
if the children get in or not.
Yeah.
Via the lottery.
Yeah.
They do. Will it still happen at that time frame? Will it, if they approve it, it's instant and everybody's in type thing?
If it's approved, we will immediately begin to execute by sending you a letter.
Can you stand over
Yeah,
in front
it
of
will be as soon as possible.
this mic right here?
Oh,
Because
okay.
Facebook, people can't.
Oh, I'm not too much of a friend of Facebook.
Just don't walk in front.
I moved here from New York because I like to live free and die. And Facebook, having honor that spirit, right? Keep my privacy. But anyhow, my wife would tell you that I keep telling her to never to use my name on Facebook because I used to be a high school counselor, and those of you that are parents could relate to this. Okay, we post the thing on Facebook and it would be like war in the morning. Like, why are you mad at each other? You were friends yesterday. And when someone says something over Facebook, and it's a good technology. I'm not discounting. Don't get me wrong. I'm just trying to make a joke here, which I'm not good at it. So.
Sorry to bother you, getting into that. You were still answering.
I'm sorry.
You kind of know how I feel about the whole, accepting everybody to MST. I've already made my
Correct.
I understand that we want to accept everybody here. There's a reason why we want everybody here. There's a different way of learning here. Why can't we spread that through other parts of the high school? The pod learning, they get to take more classes, they get to learn, every other day get a different class, they have time to do homework and stuff like that. Talking to the students here at MST, having to cross to go to Memorial, they're like, we're missing out on our high school. This is our high school, not Memorial. Why do we come here? Why do I drop my son here when I don't want him to go across the street? There's a safety precaution. I know you have CTE, but I did not sign my son up for CTE knowing that he'd be crossing the street. I brought him to this high school. So then you're running into safety of, all right, with all this gun shooting and violence, you have kids crossing constantly. I know it's going to be like, oh, all people are going to go in the morning to have those classes, and then you'll have a bunch in the afternoon. You're still going to have kids crossing constantly in the freezing rain, in the snowstorms, in the pouring rain. That's just not fair to the kids who want to come here to this high school, and they come here for a reason, for the smallness of them, and they learn a whole different way. If more people want to come here, we have to figure out why they want to come here. It's not just for the CTEs. It's because of the way they learn. They leave here with nothing less than a 3.0. We should have that through all our schools, not just here.
Yeah, there's a lot of good things here that could work elsewhere. However, to create, some people thought that you could, to create this type of learning activity, it required significant investment. Like if you go to the classroom here, they're very different, but I mentioned that there are area of needs that we have. And if we had a lot of resources and a lot of students in Memorial and Central and other places, that probably would not be a choice. But we are facing an interesting reality here. And that is that if you were to replicate this model, let's say, elsewhere, it requires significant investment. Invest the dollars that we don't have. So to the family, for example, in your case, it's going to be a choice. If you don't like the arrangement, I totally understand except that what we're trying to do is trying to do it in a very measured way. And that is that we will, for example, visit and lunch. There's a lot to be gained from giving the student flexibility, and also to raise citizens, well, in my view, require that you adapt, and this is a reality that we are facing that I wish I wasn't facing. I had to respond to the families that children are only children once. You know, if you're 15 years old, it's a 15 years old. You know, once they turn 17, that's a significant period in their life that if we don't meet their needs during that time, families normally, as I said earlier, are looking for more for kids. And many of them are telling us that to your point, that we are offering elsewhere may not be what they feel that their youngster need to enter the world, if you will.
Dr. Vargas, can I
Yeah.
follow up with a
Yeah,
question?
please.
What are the exact constraints right now stopping MST from accepting more students?
Space is the number one reason, but it's, to your point, for example, it doesn't mean that the kid had to be there, for example, every day. There might be a design, and again, it will be presented to the family, and respectively, it will be transparent. It would be, and I'm glad that you asked that question, because there would be no surprise. You know, if a family choose to come here under those conditions, I think it's a sound one. You know, as I mentioned to you, it's not perfect. You know, if I had the financial requirement, you know, I probably would say, well, maybe it's okay because we have so much dollars available that we could do what you say. But I'm going to tell this community, we cannot wait 10, 20 years, family asking for something different because society is changing and not responding to it. So, but I totally understand what you're saying.
It's the safety, you know, I mean,
Yeah.
it's not just the safety for MST students, but also for Memorial students, from all these, you know,
Yeah.
the administrators over there at Memorial aren't gonna know every kid that's walking.
I respectfully would disagree with you. If you were to go to campus like Pinkerton, you will see that crossing from one building to the next is like, and again, I hate to even give that example, but
They're crossing a busy street though.
they are crossing, just to give you an idea, our system in here, we're very proud. We have very loving educator, and there's not a single educator that I know that, for example, if there was a snowstorm that we will cross it, I would tell you that I never closed the school unless I had it, you know, more than 6, 7, or 8 inches of snow, because snow, there are about 23 different types of snow, by the way. And here in New England, it's snow and snow, and I say that respectable. But I also spoke with people like your generation, if I might use that word, who said to me, we have a bunch of whimper here. And I say that respectable because the first time that I kept the school open, I say, what the heck is going on? I mean, someone was questioning and I was surprised. And I made a mistake. I said in the paper, what do I have to check? There were only 3 inches of snow. And people thought I was a strange fellow, which I might be. But I do know that, by the way, it was like a generation gap. Your generation were like, leave that guy alone. He just left the school open for kids. So I'm not diminishing what you're saying. However, I give our children more credit than they are. And by the way, our kids walk in a more dangerous situation than that because we don't provide transportation for high school kids. You know, our kids walk during the dark morning, during sport time, and this is, by the way, is an incredible safe community. I mean, people look at me like I have family outside the area and the cities gets the reputation that it doesn't deserve. It's like our school. If you don't think kids are misbehaving elsewhere, I tell you, I have parents that come and say that to me, and I said, you go to Mr. Krantz School and you see the best music program, kid walking around relating, you see the love there, you can go to South Side, Park Side, or Hillside, and I just would tell you, or Memorial, or any of our schools, are incredible. Now, do we have challenges? Yes. When wouldn't you have challenges if you have, 14,000 kids in a city every day with our educators do an incredible job. And schools, the safety place for children, still today, with what you hear. Less thing happen to children in school in terms of dangerous thing than anywhere else. So I have confidence in our educator that your concern could be addressed by us. There are many things that we can do to hopefully to respond to your concern, and I do respect your opinion, and it's a valid one, but we should be concerned about children when they are crossing the street or when they're in the classroom, and I think that you have a very caring system in here. Go ahead, please. And then,
Trust me, she can go before me.
yeah.
To piggyback on
No,
that
it's
part,
good.
crossing the streets.
Yeah.
Weston Road is a very busy road, and I find
Yeah.
my child's gonna cross. Is it possible for the city to look at maybe getting, the button you press so
Yep.
cars will stop? Where they don't-
All of those are possibility. If there is a felt need, that's why you have a very responsive elected official, and they could do a traffic study, and we can request that. The only thing I say to you that I have seen the kid crossing the street, and I think that we have to give credit to our teenagers. They are, and not to discount your concern, but they do a pretty good job crossing the street.
It's not really them I'm concerned
Yeah.
with. We all live in this area, and people fly up Weston Road.
Yeah,
It's, and that's kind of going around a corner, they're not paying attention. And if you do go to that kind of model where you have
yeah.
more children, there's going to be a lot more crossing at different times.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that we can do, including crossing guards, and everything else. All of this we will take into consideration. But it's not like we're going to say go. And we don't do that now either. Actually, we do have people that look at our children. And there will be teachers moving, because sometimes we have teachers every day that are moving from one school to the next. And it happened from Memorial to MSD, and there's a lot of things that could be put into place to address your concern. I do want to say to you that you do have a very, very caring system here. I see Mr. Cranto, Skilias, and what they do on their staff, it's just unbelievable. I remember you just calling me, because they call me when things are going, a kid that decide to run for whatever reason, they went chasing them, and, making sure that they follow that kid, and that that the kid will be taken care of. Like I say, we have children that have challenges, and sometimes when you have a caring adult behind children, you'll be surprised what happened. And I will say to you that our system is a very, very caring, and we would not do something that would be irresponsible. Like, for example, here's your class. We might ask the kid and monitor and look for them and take into consideration what you suggest. You can pass it along as a traffic concern that you might have once the plan is passed. I can't promise you that they will put it, because they do an analysis about whether the danger. I only want to say to you that if you go to Central or any other school, you see our children crossing more dangerous street.
Beach is cool.
And if I was from the city, and I'm not taking any position here, but I will say to you, then I'm going to have to put one of those pretty much everywhere. And again, if that's what you feel like, we'd be more than happy to put the request. It may or may not be granted for all kinds of reasons, but at least you would know why.
Dr. Mike, did you want to go?
Yeah, real quick. So, I mean, the whole issue of trade schools really is cropping up big time. PBS just did an article on it. They were talking about the push for the bachelor's degree when there's a need for trade schools. And, you know, I grew up around here, and I remember when this was called the Skill Center. This was not the place you wanted to be.
Correct.
And so over the years, in the last few years, this seems to be the place to be. So something is working correctly here. Okay, and I don't know exactly what it is. Well, my thought would be, I understand the city's very limited financially, obviously, but wouldn't a school such as the School of Technology greatly benefit from a public-private enterprise? Something along those lines where there are a lot of businesses that would more likely than not come in here and work collaboratively with the city. Because I see this school as a gem, and, you know, if it needs an addition to support the additional 175 students applying, you know, 10 years ago, I don't think that was, I don't even know what the school population here was at the time, but that's a lot of kids.
So one of the things we're doing, actually, we're calling it, I guess, the Parkside Project, where back in the fall, I had this idea of taking basically what the woodshop class amounts to. I think it was 96% of the kids at Parkside go through woodshop. So everyone goes through it. So what I actually proposed to anybody, and Mr. Ransdell actually picked up on it, was we were actually going to take that wood shop and we're going to do six 3-week mini courses on different aspects of the trade, of getting them excited. The cool part is the partnership. So we actually already had some brainstorming sessions where we had industry like, Denron, electrical companies come in, landscaping companies, and come in and brainstorm with us we basically said, okay, if you could teach a 7th grader what you need to, what your industry does, what would you tell them? Give us that information. And we spent probably about 3-4 hours just roundtabling this whole discussion. So we're hoping now, yesterday we had a curriculum meeting to where we're starting to put a curriculum together, and we're working again with ABC, Associated Builders and Contractors, AGC, which is Associated General Contractors, to help build curriculums that have been successful in other parts of the country. And part of that, the curriculum, is they've also committed to coming into the classroom and helping the teacher as well. And then we've partnered we're hoping there's interest at MST that the seniors will come and mentor those 7th graders as well. So getting those trades, but to your question of partnership, business partnership, actually I was at a meeting last week where the governor actually asked me, we talked about it, so it's at the governor's level, so which is pretty exciting. So we are doing, in that aspect anyway, but I think what it comes down to for MST is the space itself, and how could we better utilize a campus more mentality. And I don't know what the plan is. We're going to find out Monday.
I bring it up because I recently, for work, I had to go over to the Job Corps Training Center that was, and I know that's done by the Department of Labor, but I was absolutely amazed at what they do over there. They took me into one of the print shops, metal shops. They have $1 million machinery. And yes, it's our tax dollars at work, but it's a great asset. And I know that's a separate, Job Corps is totally separate. But when I saw that, and then I look at MST, and they're almost on this, they're a similar level, not the same level, because obviously that's funded through the Department of Labor, but, you know, I'd look at grants from the DOL to see if there's something that could help the city out, because the trades are really, I'm not handy, so I call Jimmy if I need my headlight fixed. True story.
I will call him
True
sometime.
story. But I see this now more and more, and the more people I've talked to talk about MST, they no longer call it the Skill Center. So the name brand is rising, and I would really hate to see that get squashed somehow, because in the city, I think there's still a lot of old thinking, and it's, you know, you're new, you brought in fresh ideas, board members have come on, and I just think this is a gem. This is a huge gem for the city, and I just want to.
Absolutely. Yep, no, it's, I totally agree. The first partnership, our mission, if you read it, our work is supposed to be done in partnership with the community, so, and we are, like Mr. Lehoux is mentioned, we are expanding the West High School right now is looking into all that possibility. And by the way, if you go to McLaughlin Middle School, Mr. Krantz is here, you see the kid doing hands-on, they have 3D printer there. They have exciting stuff. Our school are second to none when it comes to giving opportunity for children and project-based learning, experiential learning, active learning, all that dynamic that is incredible. And I just, in your board letter, you will see that we got a grant. Manchester was selected 2 in the nation to continue to foster some of the type of work that you see here. As you mentioned, the approach that is utilized here, where students are engaged in a very dynamic way. Like, for example, last year we had one of our robotics thing, you know, was first in the area, along with Memorial and Central and West. Never happened before. 4 schools, each one of them were winning. And I was asking myself, why are we doing that? And I attribute that to what's going on here, but also elsewhere throughout the system at the middle school level all the way, and also the elementary level. We have a student in the 5th grade doing fancy stuff, let me put it that way. At least that's how they would describe it to us.
Dr. Vargas?
Yeah.
I actually had a question from Facebook.
Oh, Facebook.
What are we doing for staffing and class sizes?
Well, that's extremely crucial to us. By the way, one thing that you find on CTE classes, when people tell you they don't believe in small class sizes, the very program that you're promoting here, you mentioned it was small. To do a CTE class well, you had to address the class size to meet the need of the student. But what are we doing last year, we began to invest. Because at the elementary school, we need to do 2 things. We need to free up space, because we don't have sufficient space at the elementary school, which is part of the plan that I'm going to present to you Monday. And then you need to hire teachers to reduce that class size. So the plan has an objective. For example, for kindergarten, we will put 20 students with 1 teacher. Now, if you go to Bedford, you find there they have 20 students in a regular kindergarten classes with those babies, but they also have a paraprofession. So given our financial reality, we will be reducing that in a significant way. And from 1st grader through 3rd grader will be at 22. And again, that's what are we doing? We are going to submit a budget with a specific ask of the city, because we don't produce our own revenue, to finance that. At the middle school, also, we want to make sure, if anyone tell me, Mr. Krantz could tell you what it is to spend a class period with 30 students that are at age 12 and 13. And only parents know that. We want to make sure that we at least are compatible with the surrounding district. And you mentioned business partnership. One thing that we do know is that family are comparing. this group of children are getting this next door, what are my kids getting here? And one of the things that they looking for is class size. That's something that I heard loud and clear from families and educators and teachers and school board members. There is a consensus that we need to do that urgently at the elementary school level and then move forward to middle. And at the high school, we are in fairly good shape, in which our class sizes are not as high, they're very low in some cases. So our urgent need to reduce class sizes at the elementary and middle school.
Just a quick question, it's a quick number. Of those 175 that applied to MST, are there any that are from outside of Manchester?
Yeah, there are a few, and we also have some that are from charter school. Actually, if you were in one of the sessions, I think the father told me that if the kid doesn't get into school here, he basically will go elsewhere. It's okay. No, it's fine. It's quite okay. It's all right.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's all right.
You mentioned that the school's overcrowded or you can't fulfill all the requirements or the students want to come here. Can we restrict the surrounding towns from bringing students in here?
Actually, we can, but we want them. And the reason is that when they come to us, they bring us revenue. And also, the reason we don't have enough space here is not because of the surrounding town. Because the students that are coming from the surrounding town, most of them are coming for half a day, which is, we've been doing that since 1980, and we have a space for the CTE program. It is the newest addition to this operation. The creation of the Manchester School of Technology, as it was envisioned, was to be a standalone school. Like, for example, we began to issue diploma. I think the first graduating class was 2 years ago. What?
For MSC?
Yeah.
They're working on their fifth year.
And I'm talking about graduating, when they got the degree.
Oh, the first one, yes.
Yeah, the first to graduate. I know that, yeah, 2 years ago. So this is a new operation, and someone mentioned that we confuse sometimes the CTE with the MST classes. But part of our goal will be at some point that people are going to be moving here, are going to be knocking on our door and say, we want to be here because what you offer here is so unique. And they are doing that for the most part. Like, for example, they are sending a lot of students here for half a day, but not for the full day.
Any other questions? If you don't mind, I want to invite Ms. Gillis up and talk a little bit about safety. Sorry about that. So Ms. Gillis has been basically heading up the whole safety plan for the district. And about a month ago or 3 weeks ago, we had a forum here, which was actually made the news and was looked at from all over the country of the partnerships that she was able to build. So without really going into a lot of detail, there is a lot of work going on in the safety of the schools, and I'll leave it to Jen to give like 2 minutes of 2 years worth of work.
So I'm gonna do my best, considering I wasn't kind of thinking I was going to direct.
Sorry, I put her on the spot.
So we have a pretty dense and very well-qualified safety team within the district. Anybody in this room here for the community forum? Okay, so you saw, right, the whole front panel was filled. Police, fire, the hospitals, AMR, we've got state reps in there. We've got a lot of people helping us understand how to best suit our students and keep our buildings and our students safe. What's really interesting is it's a dynamic document, so we kind of keep looking at it, what's coming up, what do we need to address. That group keeps coming back to the table. And you sometimes think you do a plan, everybody's going to be happy when it's set and settled and you're proud of it and everyone wants to leave it. This team comes back constantly. You know, what if we looked at this angle? What if we looked at this problem and we want to solve it a little bit differently? The group does not take status quo as good enough. They're always pushing. They've had a very focused effort in training, so how do we get everybody up to speed? How do we get people thinking a little bit different? How do we get families equipped with a family emergency plan? How do we have communications working better? So I would say the team in general has really pushed thinking within the city and has really highlighted some of the best in our city. So I'm always very amazed and humbled by them.
Probably the biggest thing I took out of that meeting was the speed at which information gets out there. Obviously, kids have their phones and stuff like that. And all of a sudden you'll see on Facebook will blow up about how the police aren't talking fast enough or the administration's not talking fast enough. They have an obligation to get it right and not have rumors. You can have a kid on one end of the school that heard something at the other end and start texting or whatnot. So I implore you to be patient. And when you hear it from the administration, or the police or whoever the officials, that it's going to be accurate information. We had a few, like the memorial incident a couple of years ago. I mean, got completely out of control and nobody knew what was going on at that time. So, what's that?
Sorry.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, finish.
So in regards to that's what I took out of that meeting was, get it right the first time, so.
Yeah, and I would add, our students see the world differently than we certainly grew up and how we see the world.
It's an understatement.
Right? But they help us understand how do we do better. So Southside, we run our drills and we throw, I'll call them curveballs in. So, right, you might be used to going out a door and to your left and to your right, and that's where you meet. Well, what if that's closed, right? What do we do in that situation? So really starting to push thinking and training and getting people, you got to think on your feet, that mental scripting that's got to go on. So I will say our kids are pretty amazing. They're a heck of a lot more flexible and responsive in the moment. They've grown up in a different mindset. That's how they see their world. So.
I didn't want to forget, we had a resident at our first meeting come here, and she mentioned on Facebook, actually, she couldn't be here, but she wanted to bring up again, she was hoping to see police presence in the middle schools.
Grade schools.
Grade schools, sorry.
Elementary schools.
Elementary schools. Didn't know if you could address that.
So sure, Dr. Vargas, you can help me with this one a little bit. They brought that up in the community forum, and we shared. Right now, they're at all the secondary schools. The cost associated with adding into the elementary schools was something that was discussed that evening. It's a sizable investment. So I think that's something that we heard. We took that into account. The budget is the budget right now, and we're kind of in this place of, Dr. Vargas said it, if we had this, we could do a heck of a lot more stuff.
Can I just,
Yep.
I was going to say, they are available for elementary schools though.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, Ms. Milligan, our assistant principal at Southside, just mentioned, so our SROs work, so take the south end, this network of schools, so you have Memorial, MST, Southside, and Jewett. So there's an SRO in the 3 secondaries. If something happens at an elementary, all they need to do is call one of us, and that person's going to shuttle down to whatever school needs them. It does build that network of schools, or that network of knowing and understanding who our kids are. So there is some coverage, but certainly not what that community member was asking that night.
Are there any more questions?
I don't understand what the problem is here,
Of what?
what she was just talking about.
Safety?
I know there's no money for what, though? Safety?
No, they were asking to put a school resource officer in every single elementary school.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Yeah, and I think the resident was coming from a point of the younger we can get, or the younger we can get them exposed to the police and the officials, then they kind of grow up with that. as opposed to all of a sudden you have a cop in your middle school, what does this mean? You know, and so I think it was more or less coming from that angle of just having them there, having them present, be a friend, and then when they get to middle school, there's no big change in that aspect.
Although the police do the Cops Up Kids program, so they travel to each elementary school, in better weather, usually in the spring, and they bring cruisers and motorcycles and horses and
Yes, they do.
SWAT trucks and all of this stuff and set up around the school, and the kids are able to visit each one of those things and talk to the police officers, and so they get a good idea of what they're there for and meet them and meet the kids, et cetera.
I just want to say that we are very fortunate. Our police force in here is incredible, effective and friendly with our kids, and the police chief have an incredible collaboration. Jen, she could tell you that if she could describe for us the team of people that she included, from the fire department to the chief of police, just describe who is this safety team?
So,
who is involved in this?
oh heavens, so you have both police chiefs, you have lieutenants in both the police and fire, you have officers in both police and fire, you have high-ranking officials through AMR, which is the ambulance service, you have pretty high-ranking officials at CMC in Elliott, you have city health, city facilities, transportation, Airmark, food services. If you think about anything that goes into a school, soup to nuts, we've got somebody from that team.
Is mental health involved in that as well?
So they're not yet, and it's interesting you bring that up, because right after the community forum, there was a hook to me of could we branch. So we're creating some subgroups within the district EOP team that will hit these sub-topics, because you don't need 30 people sitting at a table for every single topic. So we started to create some sub-teams to look at those exactly. It was interesting, because all of a sudden, you start talking, and now you've got people coming to say, all right, I can help. And Catholic Medical Center was here that night, and they were bringing, well, we could help you with Stop the Bleed, and they came forward with more options. So it's a pretty good community, and it's pretty, we've got them all in there, which is
when I say that we have a caring community here, I really mean you have people who care.
So if there's, I just want to, oh, go ahead, Mr. Krantz. Come on up.
Can I do a little cheerleading?
Yes.
No, I think it's important.
It's always helpful.
So, I'm the principal at McLaughlin, and I've been in an administrative role for about 19 years, and it's just refreshing to have these kind of forums. I mean, it's not something that we've ever done. And I'm absolutely convinced that if we continue to do this, that the problems that you guys are dealing with at the board level, and with your input, we're going to make some progress with these things, and we can be fiscally conservative and wise with our dollars, and we can choose as a community to make investment in our children in a wise way. But we need to hear, through Dr. Vargas's leadership and the board leadership, we're making some progress. And I just sincerely hope that we can continue to do it. I mean, it can't just fall on, just the good citizens of Manchester. We need folks to maybe get in touch with state reps. We can try to write grants and whatnot. The grant money comes from other people's. It's just your money coming from a different source. You know what I'm saying? But we're really doing some good things, and it would be a shame to lose the momentum. We were able to get some things at middle school last year. We didn't have a health teacher. In my entire career, we never had a health teacher at a middle school. It doesn't even make sense. We're the largest city in one of the wealthiest states in the country, and we didn't have foreign language, and now we do. We didn't have a reading teacher ever when as an administrator at the middle school level, and we clearly have students that are in need of reading intervention, and we need more. So it's like folks are asking great questions and pointing out great needs, and the hope is that together we can figure out how do we get what we need so that in the moment, the kid that comes to my school tomorrow is getting what they need, and they don't have to wait on it. So these are great, I think, opportunities for us to have these kind of dialogues, and hopefully we can try to leverage, all of the connections that the politicians have with folks with the dollars. And they can educate us on how to be wise with the dollars we do have. But at the end of the day, we can only do so much with what we have. And with all due respect, it's not enough. And I'll speak for my colleagues, we're doing the best we can, and we're individually humble enough to have anyone come and look at our books and tell me how I can do better. Because I don't know how to squeeze the sponge anymore. Honestly, there just isn't, I don't know how to get more out of what we got. And I'm just telling you, it's not enough all the time, because we do love your kids. And we're trying to prepare them for a world that's completely different than it was when I graduated from high school back in 1980 from Central. It's different. The jobs that they're going to work haven't even been invented yet. That is a reality. And so the skill sets that they need to come out of schools is going to be different than the skill set that maybe I came out of schools with. So really, I want to applaud all you guys for doing this. I think it's great. We got to keep it going. And hopefully, there's some wisdom out there that we can tap into that we wouldn't otherwise know about because we didn't do this in the past, but we're doing it now. So I appreciate that you did this. Very
Yeah,
much.
thank you so much.
So I've been on the board for 4 months now, and probably the biggest thing to follow up what Mr. Krantz said was, prior to the board, you were looking through a funnel, basically, through the news, through whatever source you had, and now being on this side of the spectrum, you're getting invited to all these events, sometimes way too many events. There are some incredible things going on in our school that just doesn't get promoted enough. And I kind of came up with a saying that, our teachers spend 80% of their time on 10% of the kids that get 100% of the publicity. So if it's bad news or it's sensational news, it gets out there. But if like the last meeting, we gave awards to 40 kids at the last school board meeting, and there wasn't one word about it at all in any news coverage, which was a little disheartening. And again, this Monday night coming up, there's going to be another huge round of awards coming. So if you have a good experience with the school, we encourage you to please come to the board and share those stories as well, because that's where it's going to come from, is from the parents. So
I wanted to piggyback to something on the safety, because, that was on, when I came to that meeting, that was on my mind with the schools and everything. And, normally when you have government agencies interacting with each other, they don't really act with each other, they kind of don't talk. What I found was the 14-plus people that were sitting here, they're all on the same page. As a parent, walking out of that meeting, nobody divulged what, the plans are, we don't want to put that out there. I felt reassured that every department is talking to each other, and that should there ever be, God forbid, some type of an emergency, I actually felt far more reassured leaving that meeting than I had prior to. So 14 different people, agencies getting together and talking, it's amazing.
Yeah, so let me just say something about that. So when you think about the level of personnel that was sitting at that table, you've got incredibly high-ranking gentlemen at that table, and my gender is now nicely represented at that table as well. But there are no egos, there are no pretenses. No. It is literally, I have an idea, I have a wonder, and we bang it around and we think and we talk, and I would say some of the plans we've come up with are pretty remarkable. So when I said that night, I'm always humbled when I sit with them. I think that's a reciprocal behavior that comes across, which I'm glad people got to see that, because I don't think you do often.
No, and it makes, when you hear there's a committee, the first thing I think is, oh God, here we go, committee, they're just going to talk and talk and talk, but no action.
Right.
There was a lot of talk, but there was talk of action. Yeah. And I found that to be just, the kids going to school, I felt a lot better. Good.
Yeah, and I think you got to see the communication that goes, It was very easy to, a question could come, and whoever was the lead just bounced in, and there was nobody trying to talk over or take the center, which is Yeah, I agree. Thank you.
Excellent. So with that, I want to thank Ms. Milligan, Mr. Krantz, Mr. Cataldo, and Ms. Gillis, and Dan for doing our Facebook, and especially you guys for...
I think we have one more question.
So, oh, sorry.
All right, so while we're coming up with these great ideas, we've got this forum, we've got Facebook, we're all public, then how do we get more money, how do we get more parental involvement in the schools? I mean, that's a huge issue. Anybody, so if anybody is out there, anybody, substitute.
So, yeah. I chair a special committee on parental involvement, and that's the exact question we're trying to answer. We had our first meeting, our first forum. We had, about 35 in attendance, and we bounced around ideas. And we're gonna have another forum. The tricky part with parental involvement is just because they're not physically in the building doesn't necessarily mean they're not involved. If we can get them involved with their own child, that's huge, that's a plus. If we can get the communication between the teacher and the administration with the parent, that's a plus. So I don't want to get caught up that you don't physically show up and you're not a good parent, but we want to make sure that we provide as a district those tools to help the parents succeed in any way that they feel they can contribute. So we are in the process of trying to answer that question, and we hope maybe in the next couple months that we'll be able to put stuff out there and get more involvement at that level. So, Mr. Grant.
So we're also, the administrators, along with teachers, are trying to provide information to the boards. So there's a joint board meeting is coming up. So we're going to go and attempt to put into context. So when we go and speak at meetings, you know, we get 3 minutes at the public hearing. The joint board is kind of a different format. And we're just trying to respectfully present information to try to create a context so that the words that come out of my mouth mean something more than whatever the picture is that I might be creating, if I'm not being too verbose with what I'm saying. But it's like what we're dealing with in school is kind of hard to describe to you unless you see it. So we're going to try to make presentations, and it's a delicate dance because we don't want to complain. I mean, we love our kids. There's a lot of great things going on. You know, the Board of Aldermen did a great thing last year by, you know, coming up with some extra dollars for some really, you know, good stuff. It was transparent. Every dime was accounted for. We used it for exactly what we said. And I think that's the best way to operate. And we're just going to try to, my job is to try to do best by your kids. And there's going to be times when I'm going to come and ask for more dollars. And, you know, if we can persuade you that maybe it's worth, you know, at least considering it, great. And then we got to figure out how do we make it happen. We're trying to leverage all the partnerships we have. When these guys talk about the great things going on in Manchester, we have a bunch of colleges and universities. Like, this is a very desirable place to live. It's a little bit, it's wonderful in the sense that you've got Southern New Hampshire University, you've got St. A's, you've got UNH Manchester, you've got UNH Cooperative Extension, you've got Manchester Community College, you got all these folks that are wanting to partner up with us. We're trying to figure out how to do it. And Greater Manchester Chamber of Commerce is stepping up. There's all kinds of local businesses that are helping out. So I think together we can kind of figure out how do we weave all these threads together to make a nice strong rope, if you will. So we're getting there. And every opportunity like this, anytime there's a school board meeting on Monday, there's a joint board meeting coming up, there's the aldermanic meetings. Some of us have been known to go there and try to advocate for kids. And we're going to keep doing it. And we're going to try to do it in a respectful way that doesn't, you know, I'm saying it on purpose. We're not complaining. We're just trying to, you know, state what it is that we see is going on. And if we can persuade you that, you know, whatever we're asking for is worthy of consideration, then we've done our job. And then we'll leave it to you guys to decide. Yes, sir.
How many of the professional people that are teaching in and around in these colleges live in Manchester? They all live in Bedford.
Yeah, I don't know.
And why did they go there?
Well, my sincere hope is that we're going to, our school district is going to become so great, we're going to move out of Bedford and move to Manchester. I'm absolutely convinced that we will
lot of
get
money.
Well, I'm just saying, I mean, I think we do a good job, and quite honestly,
Well, I know you do. I taught for 35 years in the system, so I know it.
Well,
But things have changed since I started in 1961.
well, they're a little bit higher, and it just makes it work that much better when we actually get to where we want to be. So we look forward to the challenge. We really do.
Excellent. Well, on behalf of the school system and Alderman Cataldo, I want to thank you all for coming. We'll be doing this again probably in a couple months with a city side. And then hopefully in the fall, when the state rep races start and all that, maybe we'll get some of the people running up here, you could ask them questions. So thank you very much. Please drive safe.
Thank you.
Yeah, I was gonna